How you doing? My name is Dermot Bolger. I'm a novelist. This is my home in Drumcondra. My father often sat in this chair having a whiskey in his old age, but he never talked much about his time at sea. He was 44 years at sea. After he died, I tried to remember and recapture his generation of men who sailed through the Second World War, being bombed on those small ships going to Lisbon, in a book called The Lonely Sea in the Sky. This is an extract from it. The speaker is 14 years of age. I entered the cabin. Badly wounded men occupied every available space, being tended to by our captain and the German captain lieutenant. Mr. Walton resumed assisting them. Maybe it was because he had not slept in so long, or because he had sacrificed the laudanum that kept his pain at a tolerable level, but he now possessed the stoop of a far older man. It was evident to everybody how ill he was. He nodded his thanks when I handed him a slice of bread. I placed the slice down beside Miles Foley, the old man who was neatly stitching up an old blanket. I knew without being told that it contained the body of the German lieutenant I had helped to pull from the waves earlier. Captain Donovan accepted a portion of bread and paused to savour a bite. I won't even ask where this white flower materialised. He nodded towards where Miles was finishing the makeshift shroud. We're too far from Ireland to keep the lieutenant's body on board. Besides, as a sailor, we thought he might be happier with his own kind beneath the waves, rather than lying in a grave on island that nobody will ever visit. Have you been to the engine room yet? Mr. Tierney is in a foul mood with folk complaining about how slow we're going, I said. It won't improve his mood. But tell Mossy Tierney to bring the ship to a halt. We're taking this poor man up on deck before the last of the daylight is gone. I don't care if every submarine in the Atlantic is pursuing us. A burial at sea is still a burial, and we'll do it in stillness and with dignity. When I returned to the engine room to shout this command in over the heads of the men, I expected Mr. Tierney to grumble, but he obeyed and made a sign of the cross. Perhaps it was the noise of the engine stopping, but as I hurried up on deck, I noticed the sailors from the engine room following me. Some knocked on cabin doors and called out in German. I felt like the Pied Piper as I climbed the deck and looked back to see men crowd the passageway and wait their turn to follow suit. Captain Donovan and the German captain lieutenant had already carried the body up on deck, sealed up inside the stitched up blanket. They stood at the bow. Men lined the ship from midships and all the way back to stern. Mr. Tierney noticed the Germans following me. Your German must be improving, he said wryly, before adding in a more sombre tone. The German captain lieutenant wants a word. He paused. You're your own man. Do only what you feel is right in your heart. Miles Foley was kneeling to inspect his handiwork, anxious that no stitching came loose until the body had sunk several fathoms with the weights placed inside the man's pocket. He gestured for Herr Muller to help check the needlework, primarily just to give this grief-stricken man a role in the proceedings. The German captain lieutenant watched me approach. Young man, are you familiar with Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd? In English, yes. He turned to Captain Donovan. The last light is almost gone, Captain. You will not be offended if I conduct the service in German. No, Captain Donovan replied, but this is an Irish civilian ship. If there are Nazi salutes, neither I nor my men will join in. This man was a civilian long before he donned the uniform. We were all civilians before war brought us to this place. He turned back to me. Before his body enters the waves, I would like if you could recite Psalm 23 in English. I would then ask Herr Muller to recite it in German. Will you do this for me? He paused and then looked towards the body stitched inside the blanket. Not for me. Will you do it for him? I glanced back at the watching German men, aware that the Irish crew were vastly outnumbered. I felt so inexperienced compared to these seafarers. But Mr. Walton's word stayed with me. I don't know if it counted as subordination to disobey a request from a foreign commander, but I could only remain true to my own instincts. I willingly risked my life to try and rescue every German sailor, I said, and it broke my heart when we needed to leave men behind to drown. But it's a different thing to ask me to pray for an officer who was part of the same navy who murdered my father. I don't know where Mr. Tierney appeared from, but some protective instinct had caused him to leave the cabin room. He stood directly behind me. Mr. Walton stepped forward too. Our second officer was so ill that he barely had enough strength to stand up, but he was ready to strike the first man who raised any objection to any decision I made. I'm not just asking you to pray for the lieutenant, the German captain said. I'm asking you to say a prayer for all the men who've gone to their deaths on Biscay during the war, with nobody to pray over them, your father and Herr Muller's brother too. With respect, sir, I replied defiantly. My father wasn't part of your war, so leave me out of this. What age are you? The captain lieutenant asked quietly. 16. He gave a half smile. What's your real age? On this ship, I'm 16. I have a son aged 16, he said. He has been conscripted and sent to fight on the Russian front. He had no say in the matter, like I had no say in what orders I was given when I commanded my ship. My son loves books and music. There is a girl he is sweet on. I hope he got to kiss her once before he left for the front, because at just once he knew the pleasure of a girl's lips. But he is so gentle that I'm not sure he found the courage to kiss her. My son is now a man, or at least is forced to wear a man's uniform, but to me he is still a boy. I cannot imagine him hurting a fly, but out on the freezing Russian front he must kill or be killed. Conscientiousness is not an option. He must advance through the snow into the teeth of Soviet machine guns, or be shot by a German officer for cowardice if he hesitates. Perhaps you are so morally superior that you would kill nobody. If you are, then I respect your courage. But before you make that claim, I only ask you to imagine what it feels like to have an officer stand behind you, ready to shoot a bullet into your skull if you refuse to kill. He looked around at the silent men. Do my sailors look like killers? Do they look any different from your crewmates? They are hungry and tired and sick of war. They miss their homes and children. None wish to be out on these waves except for some fanatics. But this is where we were sent with a stark choice: kill or be killed. We have hunted, and now we are the hunted. We killed good men and lost good men. Before we bury our comrade at sea, I will ask my men to bow their heads in silence. Everyone has someone they need to remember. You may wish to remember your father, or you may wish to walk away. That is your decision. He gave a command in German. Although the men were silent already, a deeper silence entered. He nodded to Herr Muller, kneeling beside Miles Foley. But before that bereaved man could stand up and pray in German, I stepped forward. Raising my voice, I thought not just of my father, but of all the lost Wexford sailors whom I knew only through his stories, his crewmates and friends now missing beneath these waves. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me to quiet waters by. My soul he doth restore again, and me to walk doth make within the path of righteousness, even for his own name's sake. Yea, though I walk in death's dark vale, yet shall I fear no ill, for thou art with me, and thy rod and staff me comfort still. As I spoke, other Irish voices joined in. When I finished, Herr Muller recited the same psalm in German. I looked back at Mr. Turney and Mr. Walton. Their faces were sombre in whatever life remained, but they both nodded in silent approval.